welcome back to our channel. I'm Intisar, Zar Galore. If you didn't know, this is my beautiful husband, Joseph.
Hey.
And we are back. And you bitches had so much to say about our scene last time. So my man went and was I don't even want to use that word. He was getting it together today, okay? He was stressed out, making sure that the sound was right today. So I hope it sounds much better for you guys. We got a brand new setup. And we're going to talk all things Married at First Sight. Now, we are a bit behind, okay? But full disclosure, Joe had a small tour. And I was kind of like a groupie for like a week. So do you want to, I know we're going to give you a video about the tour, getting ready for the tour and everything like that. But how was it, honey? Did you have a good time?
I thought it was great. I mean, we did it felt like it was a lot longer than it actually was.
It's funny, it felt like one day, like we were in the Lotus Room.
The Lotus. Oh, the show, the TV show?
You remember?
Yeah,
I mean, but it was like it felt like it was like we got on a boat and then it was over.
It's crazy because when we got back, we were talking at the rehearsal spot and we were just talking about how it felt like we was gone for 4 weeks.
But that's because you guys are so used to working and doing like being on the internet and being able to have access to life and stuff. And we were on a cruise and we were really had no access. So that was why we were unable. We were trying to film, but because we had so little, we couldn't get any internet or anything, like not much of internet or anything like that.
The internet was non-existent.
It was non-existent. We paid for the platinum plan. Yeah. Okay. So we are sorry that we weren't able to come through with the come through, but we are back and highly disappointed. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just feeling like let's just jump right on into it. Everybody's emailing me, guys, so I'm sorry about the noise in the background. I guess we should just jump on in. Where we left off was we're doing episode 3 and 4 right now.
Yeah.
Right? Episode 3 and 4. Tomorrow, when we're filming this on Tuesday night. So tomorrow, Wednesday, episode 5 comes out. Mm-hmm. We're going to try to be really aggressive to get episode 5 out this week so we can get back on track. Okay. Because I'm tired of us being behind, and I know y'all are tired of us being behind. So I'm saying all that to say, let's jump right on in. So Steve and Noi get married. When. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, there's not much there. I'm going to start with Steve and Noi because I feel like they're the least problematic.
It's just they're going to be the quickest because it's just not a lot there. Mm-hmm. Which typically that's a good thing, right? Like, you know, if they don't have to, if there's not a lot of camera time, most likely it means it's just because there's not a lot of drama.
Yep.
But they also are pretty like, you know, Steve is pretty plain white bread to me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, so.
Or Hawaiian roll.
Whatever. No, Hawaiian rolls have flavor. Okay, you ain't even got to put no butter on it.
He a little Asian. Ain't he a little Asian?
He's boring. I don't know what he is, but I do know that I do know that he's boring, and so it's not.
He's a sales engineer.
He's a nomad. He is nothing. Okay, and so I think that's the main thing to talk about. Like, Noi is kind of questioning him about, you know, the job thing, and he kind of hits her with like, you know, that's just something I'm gonna have to think about. You know, like they talking about how many kids they gonna have or something like that. No, we talking about you having a job, bro.
It was Noi. It was Noi's mother. Okay, I don't even know if I want to address this.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you picking up what I'm putting down before I even say it?
I think you need to address it.
Okay, so a lot happened in the episode, and I really do love how we're trying to include everybody in all of their life and all of their glory. But is it me, or do y'all think I don't want to say they forced Noi's brother to show up. I don't know. I'm going to call Noi. He introduced himself as Noi's brother, though, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Okay, because
he said, "I am Noi's brother."
I was going to say them, they. That's why I said that.
He didn't say that.
He didn't say that, no. And I wanted to be clear because I want to, you know, address people properly. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was gimmicky.
It felt.
I know that sounds bad because I really do believe representation is important.
But that's not what this is about. And let's be honest about it. And we should be able to say what it is. And what it felt like is I'm going to perform for the cameras. That's what it said to me.
He wasn't even, when he was talking to Steve, he wasn't even, did y'all notice this?
Yeah. It was just a lot.
It was like, are you listening?
But he even admitted I did this to get a rise out of Steve. I did this to gauge his reaction. Like, you know what I mean? Which is whack.
Steve was moved by
he
that.
He didn't. But Steve isn't moved by anything. That's also how much little he knows about Steve. But so you weren't going to get a rise out of Steve, period. Yeah. But also everybody was just kind of just like, okay, dude. Like it was just a real look at me type of vibe. And that's what was annoying about it. It was annoying because it was really, really reaching, and it was really obvious that he was doing this for attention and doing this for his 15 minutes.
It was obvious. And even how he spoke to Steve, I think
was disrespectful.
It was
a
little much to me.
It was weird and it was disrespectful.
But that was also the theme of the episode. The theme of the episode is, who needs enemies with friends like these? That really should have been the title of the goddamn episode, real, okay?
Man, we should quote my dad.
Come on, Neil. Because the great philosopher.
He sure did.
For real. Like, I thought it was like really fascinating. I know they tell them like to say like, oh, what is your flaw? What is your friend's flaw? Whatever the case may be. But I thought it was really fascinating how everybody was kind of dogging their people out.
I think they prompt them to do these things, and then some people just take it too far. Some people go overboard. You know, some people start talking and they can't stop themselves. You know, and then some people really just don't like the person that's on the show.
It's funny.
Like Shorty's family just does not like her.
Let me tell you something. What's her name? Ooh, it's gonna come to me. Mark and what is her name?
Lindsay's family does not like her.
Lindsay's family and friends, for that matter.
And the friends.
And you know what it is? I really take issue with people who know that they are nasty people, or people have this funny thing of thinking that just because I have an opinion, I'm supposed to say my opinion.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like your truth is not my truth, right? And I think that sometimes you gotta bite your tongue and look around the room. And I think some way, somehow she's on a social spectrum, like I think something is wrong with her, is what I'm trying to get at. Yo, I'm trying to be polite. If I'm being honest, I'm trying to be polite. But I think that her dad knows this. The way that the dad talks about Lindsay is like, I love her because she's my daughter.
And that's it, and that's all.
But as a person, I don't like her personality.
Yeah.
And I wonder how she got like that.
And it's clear that the mom ain't messing with her either. She said the mom called and told production, not only am I not coming, but you guys are pairing.
You're ruining somebody's life
with a horrible person. Exactly. And I'm almost convinced that we're not sure, but I'm sure that's what she said.
Certain.
And it's always a red flag when a mother does not like her daughter.
But you know what though? Sometimes there is a population of people whose mothers don't, for whatever reason, don't like their children. I find it to be.
There's bad mothers, there's bad fathers.
That's what I'm saying.
But typically, it's something to investigate. You know what I mean? It could always just be, a bad parent, but typically it's something to investigate. You know what I mean?
I agree. This is gonna be really light because not much happened in the first episode 3, but a lot happened in episode 4.
Yeah.
But so Olajuwon sits down with Katina's mother. I really do think they look beautiful together, Olajuwon and Katina, and I really hope, just for aesthetic purposes, that they stay together. And we've been really watching. We've been really taking our time and making sure we get all the information. So we've been also watching the after party. Mm-hmm. And I want to say this. As much as I think Olajuwon, something about him is very clear. Okay? He does seem like he's hyperactive. He told Katina's mother that he has ADHD, which I think is hilarious.
Well, but to that point right there, something about him is very honest.
Yes, very.
And very transparent.
Very.
And he might be annoying. He might be too much energy. He might be whatever. And
his family said all of that.
And they said all of that. But one thing nobody called him was fake. And one thing that we getting from him is he's gonna be himself.
Yeah.
Whether you like himself or not, he's going to be himself, which we can appreciate authenticity. We can appreciate that, and it seems like that's him. And it's, you see it coming across even then when we talk about the after parties. You see him on the, you know, a couple of the after parties, and he's even more likable because he's just the worst type of people are fake ones. And pretentious, fake, like, you know what I mean? So even if he annoys you a little bit, you can still appreciate that he's just himself.
But you know what I think is going to happen? Okay, and hold me to this, y'all. Hold me to this. What I think is going to happen, I think that over time, I think he's nervous. I think these these are early episodes. We got to really keep that in mind, right? They are just getting used to having, you know, 20, 30 people in the room with them filming their everyday life. So I think the hyperactiveness, he's overly stimulated.
I think part of his energy is nervous energy.
Absolutely. But I think something about him I'm really finding grounded. And I really kind of like. I didn't enjoy the conversation with Katina's mother. Was fascinating because Katina's mom like, oh, look over there, and got up and walked away. I thought that was rude. And I can understand if you felt like he was babbling or whatever the thing is, but there was a way to say, honey, it's okay. I know you know, anxious and excited, like, relax.
But the problem is some people come into this like ready to side-eye the person, no matter who the person is, no matter what their personality is. You can tell. And I felt like Noy's brother was the same way. It could have been Barack Obama himself sitting there, and he would have went and did the antics. And, you know, some people come in with that. Like, it doesn't matter what vibe you get or what energy you get. Some people come straight out straight from the jump with guns blazing because they think that that's cool or what that's supposed to do. What are your intentions with the dumbest question ever is what are your intentions with so-and-so, right? Or, you know, playing the tough guy. I hate when people play the tough guy role, especially with the guys, right? They'll come, well, you know, if you do this, you got to answer to me. What the hell does that mean? Like, I got to call you or something?
But, you know, people just feel like they have to say
that's what things. I'm saying. And I think, but some people go in with a game plan.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's one thing if you go in and you're just not vibing with somebody or they rubbed you the wrong way. But these people are going in almost with a script. Like, I'm going to say this and I'm going to be real tough. And the one guy did it with Olajuwon. I don't even know who that guy was. The guy, I don't even know. Was he a brother? Goodness. Was he a cousin?
Was the next day. It was her friend. It was her friend. Olajuwon sits down with the friends, but I even respected how he handled that.
Straight up,
because he was like, look at him in his eyes, like, please. And I have the same. When I tell y'all, the energy was so pure because I have the same energy. Because if you think one of the funniest things in. You know, I always like to take it back to me and Joe, but one of the funniest things when I first moved to LA was like, people thought Joe and I had just met. You know what I mean? Like, I was just his girlfriend and we just moved in with each other. And it's like, I've known him longer than y'all know him.
Yeah, well, not the close ones, because all the close ones know it was adjacent people. Because everybody knew about Joe and Zar. No, I'm just for them clearing it up. Like, everybody knew about Joe and Zar from the time that they.
I didn't mean it like in the bad. I meant it like
people who wasn't that close to me. Yeah, right. Just assume like you were a new person. Yeah,
exactly. So then they would come to me and like try to tell me like, well, you got to do this and do that, and I was like, excuse me, like, you know what I mean? Like, I've known Joe since he was a kid, so it's like,
but also vice versa. Like, and I say this all the time about Zar's father. Like, Zar's father is, if anybody knows him, he is a real one. Ain't nothing sweet or passive or pushovery about him, right?
I mean, absolutely not.
He
is that guy.
He's lived a life, right?
Yes, he has. A very full
He's
one.
never once hit me with no macho, I mean, at all. And he met me when I was literally a kid.
Yeah.
And he's never once hit me with no, you know, I'm the guy out here, so you got to answer to me. I hate that fake tough guy ass, because real tough guys, guess what? They don't talk like that.
But my thing is, and Joe and I had this conversation yesterday. The underlying thing is that they were trying to figure out if Olajuwon is sincere or whatever the case may be, right?
That's not how you figure it out, though.
And
talking tough to people, you know what I mean?
1,000% agree. And I would argue the more that you're in a relationship, especially a marriage, especially in marriage. I'm giving them grace because they just got married, right? So you still, and they got the single spirit still upon them. It's not like they were in a relationship, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, you can never sit up and question it's no way on planet Earth I'm gonna be okay. I don't give a damn who you are to me. You'll be my best girlfriend. Don't sit up and question my husband or my fiance, or you know what I mean? Because not in that manner. I know that's what they were there for, but not with the extra shoulders and stuff like that, or with the excuse me, the assumption that he's here for the wrong reasons. Because that's what it was. It was rooted in, I'm assuming, because Olajuwon is a good-looking man. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? He owns his home, whatever the case may be. So he's in for all intents and purposes, he's a catch. So now you're projecting whatever BS that you think he might be down with, right, on him, and you don't even know him,
right?
And that's really was the issue, and I think that was Olajuwon's issue, and he rightfully was checking motherfuckers.
And not only that, but
I'm checking my friends too. Don't you ever.
Right. And not only that, but anybody worth their salt who's spent any time on earth around intelligent beings and had experience, has had true life experience, knows that people will show you who they are. And you're never going to find out who they are by asking them the quote unquote tough questions in a 10-minute sit down.
And it's
never going to happen. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get their representative.
You're spot on. And the thing is that Olajuwon, his representative, Isaac, is tired. Isaac is worn out. He don't want to show up no more. Okay. So I do think, to your point, you get to know people better just by asking them regular questions.
Right. Just right.
Life question. Right. Same way we had a bonfire, because people tell you who they are if you
they will straight up.
And I'm not gonna say his name, but you remember the guy.
I don't even remember his name.
But you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
And I'm like, literally, he was talking, and I was just listening. And I'm like, this is not a good guy. Just based on, I didn't have to go back and forth and ask him.
You don't even got to go in like that. Straight up, especially idiots, because idiots will talk themselves into the ground. You know what I mean? You don't even have to prompt them with anything tough or hardcore or anything like that. You would just let people. The idiot in the room will 9 times out of 10 make themselves known in every room.
In every room. And I thought it was really fascinating, to say the least. But I do think that Katina, I really like Katina. The only issue I have is that, don't you feel like she got into this process? I think if she would have got paired with somebody who was not as good looking as Olajuwon, she would not have any fears. I think Olajuwon comes off like a playboy.
I think Katina would have fears
either way
with anybody who she was paired with, specifically because of her past. If you like I always say, Olajuwon and Katina is really the same person, right? So I think her past makes her nervous, and his past makes her nervous.
Yeah.
Because his past makes her nervous because she sees the similarities with her past, right? Mm-hmm. So I think she's used to being in a club space, like she says, and she's used to, I'm sure, when you in that space, you meet people in that space, you date people in that space, and those relationships typically are they come and they go, right? And so I think that's another part of what makes her nervous, because that's what she's been used to. Okay. And to your point, it might be because Isaac is what she was used to.
So she see a lot of him and all the other hims. Mm-hmm. So do you think they had a conversation about their past? Do you think that that's something that they should have done so early?
I don't think it's something that they should have done so early, because you don't know this person.
You build assumptions.
That's all it is. It's just a bunch of assumptions. There's not even room for the benefit of the doubt, because you don't know this person.
Right.
You know nothing about this person.
The benefit of the doubt is aligned with trust.
Right.
Like, if I trust you enough, right, I can give you rope when things are wrong, right? Like, if I feel like something isn't right, I trust you so much that I'm like, okay, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, or maybe we just need to have a conversation about these things, or whatever the case may be.
And you need a basis for that. And when you don't have one, you just flying in the wind.
I agree. I agree. So Jasmina and Michael sit down. First of all, Jasmina with Michael's family is just so warm and loving, and I love to see it.
But that's what you need to lead with, especially when this person is
they were loving
now a part of your family, right? So you're gonna get more bees with honey, and like you said, you're gonna find out more about a person when you're asking them genuine questions and not bullshit questions like, "What are your intentions with so and so?"
I agree, and I thought it was really nice of them to extend the gesture with the pen and everything like that. I thought that was really, really loving, and
because you're gonna get more bees with honey. And when you come at somebody offensively, they're going to respond defensively. And so now we're not sharing. This is just a battle.
Yeah, for sure.
When you
also we see his sisters. She's going to get her ass kicked.
Straight up.
Like, I mean, look at him. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't mean it like in a bad way. I mean, like the one looked like she had really big hands.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's like, listen, we're going to be nice. I'm going to treat him good, whatever the case may be, or as good as to be expected. But we're going to go into this positively. And I thought it was fascinating. They didn't film Jasmina and Michael a lot. So that means to me that it wasn't a lot of drama either.
I was about to say, and that's a good sign, especially to start with.
I agree. I'm really excited to see where they go. The funniest part to me, first of all, we watched this. We had an Eddie Blitzer. I'm really trying to get that.
That's not a thing.
An Eddie Blitzer.
They are like, what is that?
I had it, and if you first of all put it in the comments if you want to know what it is. If you smart, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I had an Eddie Blitz. My favorite cocktail. What's my favorite cocktail, babe?
It's an Eddie Blitzer and a glass of wine.
Ooh, baby. Okay. Yeah. So I was crossfaded like a mug, and it was a fantastic time last night. Me and Joe had a fantastic time. Okay. So we're watching this, and the part that really took me out was when Michael is sitting down with Jasmina's mom and dad, and the dad, well, her stepdad, but the dad is like, he said, you just gotta, he was like, well, any advice, whatever the case may be? He said, you just gotta learn to be quiet.
Because he said, any you don't have an answer to the question. It's a trick question.
He said, well, what if I do have an answer to the question? He said, it's a trick question.
You don't.
You don't have the answer.
It's a trick question.
Let me tell you something. When I tell y'all, I was crying tears because I'm like, that's exactly how these Jamaican men be feeling. Yeah. I'm not sure he's Jamaican. He might be like something else, but that's how they
pretty Jamaican to me.
Come on, these islandmen really be feeling that way. Like, I'm not gonna say nothing to you.
Yeah.
But I thought that it was fascinating moving forward to the next day that Michael's very reserved, and I love how he handled her family. But the next day they sit down and have brunch, and the mom asked, do you have any examples of a good marriage?
Oh, right.
And when I tell you that was the best question that had been asked in all 14 seasons of this lifetime, whatever. Mm-hmm. Because what we don't understand is that having a good example of a marriage is so important.
Yeah.
It's so important, right? Because if you see day to day how people work together, how even on their lowest moments, they say, you know what, I'm choosing this. Mm-hmm. Even in my lowest moments, right? That my marriage is a life as well. Like me, I have a life, Joe has a life, but our marriage is its own life that we have to tend to and water, and you know what I mean? And when you see people, even in their lowest moments, like I can't do this, work together still to grow their marriage, it's something to that.
It's an advantage, I would say, right? Because I think that, people we've seen and we know great people who haven't had good examples still be great spouses and still have flourishing marriages, right?
I agree.
But there is a distinct advantage going in when you have the example of a loving marriage and you have the example of,
and it could go both ways. It could ruin you too.
It can't, right? Because we've seen that too, where people are chasing
the idea,
the idea,
so in love, they just
right? Because it's because especially if they are good parents, huh?
No.
Especially if they are good parents, they're not gonna let you see everything, right?
Right.
So you know, so you there is the flip side where you're chasing what you got from your parents, right. And they was good parents, so they wasn't arguing and throwing shit in front of you and everything. So you think that marriage is just completely roses. Yeah. And so there is a middle space where it's like, because I know when I found out of any trials or tribulations that my parents went through, it was through second, third, and fourth hand. Right. Like it wasn't, it was never because they was doing some bullshit in front of me, or I had, you know, it was, or my mom was saying your daddy ain't shit because he did it, you know, it was because I was an adult and I heard and I said, oh, that's what was that. Or my sister who's older was like, yeah, this is what happened back then. This is, you know, but so I understand the value in having a good example. But my issue with the mom in that scene was that she made it seem like it was
a disadvantage,
right? Like she made it seem like how could you be a good husband if? And I'm thinking, you know how many people have grown up and gotten married and carried lives and didn't have good examples of marriages and didn't even have two parents in the household. Right. You know what I mean? So I just didn't like her reaction to it. It was I
would argue, you know? No. I agree. And I would argue, like to your point, it's funny, me and Joe, first of all, I want to be clear. Both my parents were present. Okay, before I say what I'm about to say. But Joe had his parents in the house where my dad was coming over and leaving. Okay.
But this was because your parents were at one point, but they were full disclosure, they were, yeah. So this was a part of another iteration.
Yeah, they were married for a long time. It was more, what I'm getting at though, is in my formidable years, they weren't. Right? When I was dating, when Joe and I were dating, they weren't married. By that time, they had been separated. So we did have different views of that, but I think that the patience that we might experience or we give each other right now, right? We're really patient with each other right now. I think that's primarily because, like, I seen it one way where I think I can see how my parents could have stayed together as an adult. As an adult, I can see how if y'all would have just took your time, or if y'all had a better support system, y'all would probably still be together. Right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Even though they both, you know, they fire and water now. Mm-hmm. But I do think that they could have they had the same goals. They just were executing things differently, right? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that takes you on two different paths. And I think that's what happened, right? And but being where I am now, I feel like I'm really I know that you and I, because me and Joe are really patient with one another, and we try to give each other a lot of grace, and we have moments, and then we just like, this is not us. Like the moment doesn't consume us. It's just a moment. You know what I mean? I think that's primarily because I see, and patience is important to me because I believe in longevity. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think that might be where the mom is coming from.
Because, but also, I think you negate the way she came at him in my mind too. I think is you can negate the chance of people learning from mistakes, right? Because on the flip side of that, some people have learned what they don't want to be, right? Some people learn, like I've met men and am friends with men who go, I didn't have a great example of a father, but it taught me the father that I don't want to be. Yes. So they go the complete opposite direction, right? LeBron James talks about that for somebody that everybody knows. He talks about that. Know. Well, yes, I do personally know. No, but he talks about how he didn't have a father in the household, and he lives his life literally from the negative example of his father because he wants to be the complete opposite. So because his dad was never at games, whenever he's free to go to games, he's always at Bronny's games, and he's always at the other one's games, and he's always striving to be there because he knows what it feels like to not have a dad, right? So you also negate when you talk to people like, oh, you didn't have a, you know, you could have said to him, if you met him and he wasn't LeBron James, it's like you saying to him, you don't have a good example of a father. How can you be a good father?
But that's why I don't get why people aren't giving why isn't the conversation? Because if I'm married, my conversation is marriage requires grace and patience. And not because marriage, I think that anything you love, anything that you are deeply invested in, you work hard for, right? And that's including marriage. You know what I mean? Like, y'all go to work and will go ham for somebody else. I'm going to come home and make sure I go ham for mine too, right? And I think that that's where I took issue with the conversation. I understood where she was coming from, but I felt like, let's lead with positive energy.
Yeah.
Because you could tell she's just worried. She's worried. I think I think Jasmina has been through a lot. And I think that we might be scratching the surface on how much we know about her. And I think that the mother is speaking from a space of fragility. Like, she might be more fragile than what we letting on, like, because people could be strong in what they go through, but fragile in real life. You know what I mean? Like, that shit will break you, certain things, you know? So I'm saying all that to say, I kind of understood where she was coming from. I just felt like the way that he's been approaching them, he don't even come off like a fuckboy, if we're being honest. Is it me?
No, he doesn't.
Not to say that mad. I mean, you know what though? I don't know about y'all. I'm really good at reading people. I can smell fuckboys. They don't even have to open their mouth. I'd be like, oh, you ain't no good. You know what I mean? And something about him does seem emotionally unavailable, but not necessarily like he a bad guy.
Yeah, and to your point of, you know, talking about people, you know, Elijah and him being nervous, we also are still in that area of the show where people are adjusting to being around cameras, and every time it's really just them and their wife, it's also them and their wife and 10 other people in the room, right? So we also are not really sure yet. Are people shrinking, right? Are people shrinking? Are people shrinking to the camera? Are they shrinking to the room? Are they too nervous to actually relax and be themselves?
Yeah.
We also aren't, you know, we get to see more people. We get to see more of people's true selves as we go on in the show. And so I think that that's something just to take into account too.
I agree. So I want to move on and talk about the elephant in the room, and that's Alyssa and Chris. In the 14 seasons of Married at First Sight, I'm so disappointed in this one because
they fixed Chris and he does not deserve this. Let's just get it out there right now.
That's his name, right, Chris? So Alyssa walks down the aisle. She looked beautiful. And I don't even want to give her no props, if I'm being honest. I find her to be an abhorrent human being. I think that the way she gaslit that human being, first of all, Joe said something so real. When I see Alyssa and I see Chris, I wouldn't believe that she wouldn't date a Chris.
I wouldn't either. But in her mind, she's far and away above Chris in her mind, and she treats him like that. And that's the problem. That's my problem with it. My problem isn't, because we talked about this before, and this has been a theme of the seasons of what happens when you're not attracted to the person, right? And we talked about, and I've talked about last season, how I think people are becoming less and less apt to actually saying that they are not attracted because they don't want the backlash, right? So my issue isn't her not being attracted to him, because it's a throw of the dice.
That's not an issue, because we understand, but you don't know him.
You don't know him, and this is also a throw of the dice. You don't know that you're gonna get. You can tell the experts whatever you want to tell them. You don't know that you're going to get your type. You don't know that you're going to get somebody who tickles your fancy aesthetically, right? I don't have a problem with her not being attracted to her. I have the problem with how she treats him. She treats him as if
he's a
monster, right? She treats him as if he did something to him. As if he did something to her.
And can you imagine? And it takes me back to like how she villainized him. She sits around his no good ass friends. Let me tell you something. Who needs enemies when you got friends like his? Yeah. And Elijah on the thing said something real. He called them his corny ass friends. And I said, good for you, Elijah, calling that out, because who does stuff like that? Well, he is like, it could be really extra. It could be really. Let me tell you something. To all the bitches that call me their girlfriend, bitch, I wish you might sit up and talk shit about me, okay? Yeah. I think that is so, and I can't
That imagine. Was weird, but to his point, because what I don't want to do is take the onus off of her.
Okay.
Because to Olajuwon's point, she was looking for an out because
he said that too. Olajuwon was on one.
Because he's going to be himself. And to his point, she was looking for an out, and she was going to take it wherever it came from, however it came. And that was her chance, and she took it because she was not attractive to him. That was her out, and she was going to take that out regardless of what they said, regardless of if they said, we think
he adopts puppies and rides horses. She still would have like,
if they says he squeezes the toothpaste from the top, not the bottom, she would have been like, I just can't do this. I can't believe he does that. Like, she was looking for an out, and she took it because she was not attracted. And then in order to spin it, to avoid the backlash, in order to spin it, she spun it into, well, I'm not comfortable with you. Like he almost him. Like he Me Too'd her or something. Like, I can't be around him.
I feel so
uncomfortable around him. And it's like,
my thing is, you
just met him 5 seconds ago.
But you knew that you were going to have to spend the night with this human. Yeah. You knew. So then you turn around and make him look rapey, because that's what you did.
To avoid spending the night with somebody who you just simply aren't attracted to. That's just your only problem with him is that you're not attracted to him. That's it. If we being honest. And I'm glad that Olajuwon was honest about it. Like, that's your only problem. Because
you can tell he's a good guy. Yeah. Everything he talks, he don't ever say nothing nasty about her, even though she is a nasty person. I mean, the worst of the worst. And I pray, and I really beg y'all, I beg you, do not follow this woman. Do not give her clout. We talking about her now because she's on the show, but I want her. I'm a witch, so I really tried not to say certain things out my mouth that I don't mean. But I hope she always at a red light. I hope every other day she get a flat tire. Okay, like, I hope it's always raining. I hope she bounce checks. I hope she always getting them fees. I just really find her to be not a good human, and I really do not want her to thrive in a space, because even watching her on the
after party,
there is so much privilege and entitlement.
Oh, it oozes.
It is disgusting.
It is not palatable.
It is disgusting, to say the least. And I want to watch this, and from all of our our brothers and sisters, mm-hmm. I really want to see their perspective on her, because I'm speaking from a space of being a Black woman, right? And watching her and finding her to be completely childish. I find her to be the real tea is that you were so entitled. You were so entitled that you thought you were going to come into this experience and get the finest man out, because you was the cutest girl. That's really what you thought, if we being honest. Yeah. We keeping it 100, right? So it's like, the fact that you didn't get him, you feel like, oh no, I'm done. You shouldn't even have gotten on a plane to Puerto Rico, for real. Yeah. Imagine knowing somebody for 15 minutes and making a fool, even though I can, but making a fool in this situation, I'm done. And he don't say nothing, meaning, what's the Black girl that was going through the BS with the other bull, the lion bull? Y'all remember the guy was lying from DC?
I'm blanking on her name, but yeah, we know.
Lying. And she was trying with him. And it's why? Because she understood the process. And she was like, you know what? Maybe I'm overlooking something. Maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. Terrorized herself. And not to say that a woman should do that. I'm saying that this man ain't even do nothing to you.
Right. And but you know to your core that he didn't do anything to you, and you still are driving this narrative that he is a monster, that you are not comfortable around him, that y'all are not compatible. You can't tell us that you're not compatible to a person who you have not even had a conversation with.
You haven't even had.
Y'all had elevator talk after.
But then gonna say he looked like a real estate agent.
What does that even mean? She's just a cornball.
You know what though? I'm about to make a correlation, and y'all ain't gonna like it, but I'm about to do it anyway. All these people out there talking about, we want to save the animals, and we want to do all this and do that. Y'all don't really be good people in real life. Y'all don't be good. Y'all aren't good humans in real life. I mean, human to human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Y'all saving them who ain't even asked to be saved.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, for me, it's like, I just feel like in the history, I'm so disappointed because in the history of Married at First Sight,
this is one of the worst pairings. This might be the worst pairing I've ever seen. But me,
it's the worst casting, period.
Well, that's true.
Fuck a pairing, right? Fuck a pairing. In 16 hours, you're done with him?
But not,
and you can tell he's a good guy. Yeah. Obviously, he owns his home. You know what I mean? Like, for all intents and purposes, he's just somebody who's been overlooked.
Yeah, and I just think that it's obvious. You know, his problem is obvious too, right? His problem is he's a doormat, right? Exactly. He's a definition of a like he literally said, if she's 1% in, I'm 100% in. No, bro, you need to value yourself a lot more than that. If she's 1% in, you need to grab your shit and head to the door.
But you know what is given? What do you mean, bro? But you know what is given? You know what is given? Is given Jamie Notice. Jamie Notice was the one I told you. She was the one who was hosting the after show before.
Yes.
Okay, terrible. So when she first got married, I don't know if y'all remember this, she had a whole fit because she wasn't attracted to her husband. Looked a stupid fucking fool. And my thing, and the issue I had with that was, you stupid ass bitch. You knew your desperate ass got on this show, and I'm about to air you out. And this is not for all the other girls. This is specifically for Jamie Notice and this bitch right here. My thing is, y'all stupid assholes got on a show where you was desperate enough to marry a motherfucker you ain't even know. And then had the nerve to roll around and stomp your feet, roll around on the motherfucking floor because he didn't look the way that you wanted him to look, even though you signed up to literally marry a human being. You did not the fuck know.
Which is why I'm so glad. Which is why I'm so glad, one, that they upgraded from the girl Jamie to do the after party, because I think that the girl,
stop rewarding that bitch.
But I'm so glad that they did, because I like that Keisha.
I like Keisha.
I like that Keisha asked the questions that I don't believe Jamie would have asked when she asked the girl on the after party, why did you sign up for the show?
Can I tell y'all what annoyed me? Why do I braid your hair and then he put a hat on his head?
I didn't.
Do you know?
This is not.
Do you know how much that burns me up?
First of all, this is completely irrelevant. And secondly, I have a hat on because you braided my hair, but I did not shape myself up.
Okay. Well, let me know then, because I feel like all I did was
you do vain. Know. I do this all the time.
But you're absolutely right. I feel like one, I'm tired of it's a lot of Karens on this season, and talking about a lot of Karens. Let's move into Lindsay. Let's move into the next episode, because
she's the second Karen on the show. It's two Karens on the show.
It's two Karens, and I really do believe in diversity. And I do believe that we do need representation, even with our brothers and sisters, right? Yeah, I believe that. But I also feel like they are picking I don't even want to say it, because I don't want, we're trying to get on Lifetime, so I don't want to say what I want to say.
What?
But what I'm going to say is that the middle American white women are fascinating. I'll say that. And I do believe there's a sector that are super liberal, super understanding. And this is not to cloak them, right? But historically, if these two women aren't giving historical gaslighting, nasty.
Karen. I mean, they are the definition of Karen. Of a Karen. If you didn't know what a Karen was, and some people do not, so let's just break this down for them, because it's a very new term. And if everybody not social media hit. If you do not know what a Karen is, if you look Karen up they have a they have like a what's it called, like a slang dictionary,
what do they call it? I forget what it's called.
And it's literally on. You can Google
it. On, because I Googled my name, and my name is Intisar, and I was not expecting it to be in there, and it was in the Hood Dictionary, y'all. And it was spot on.
But I'm not even talking about that. That's like the Urban Dictionary. I'm not talking about the Urban Dictionary. But Karen is in the Urban Dictionary too, probably. But the point is, if you look it up, their faces should be next to it. I mean, it's the entitlement, it's the nastiness, it's the racial undertones. I mean, when we get to that with Lindsay
and Elijah Wan,
this whole thing of I just felt so unsafe to be around him. This you
so
just should have said this big black man.
Wait.
I mean, you just might as well should have just said it.
But did you hear Lindsay at the motherfucking wedding? Wasn't it? Were they still at the wedding? When she said everybody wanted to be a tall black man.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, black men. Y'all got to be smarter because y'all are being used. Okay. And y'all are kings. Like absolute positive kings. Some of y'all. Yeah. So some of y'all are absolute positive kings. And y'all are being in spaces where you value, and this is going to sound bad because I believe, I've lived a full life. Okay. But what I'm getting at is that when you seek value, you seek like a white woman for some black men is a prize. Like, oh, I'm that guy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I know that sounds bad, but these women are out here because I thought about, you know who I thought about when immediately when they said a black man, oh, all the girls wanted a tall black man. The first person I thought about was Alyssa.
Do you think that's what Alyssa asked? What kind of? That's what. Yeah.
She's so fucking country. She want to wear country boots and all that. But if you think she wouldn't have been standing there across from Tristan Thompson, raggedy ass, you got me tapped to screw because she don't plump her lips up and look like that.
But Alyssa also gives me like staunch Trump supporter. So,
but I
also wouldn't be surprised.
That don't mean
that. Let me finish though.
Go ahead.
I also wouldn't be surprised if she would cry and roll on the floor if they paired her with anybody of a darker skin tone. It could go either way. I wouldn't be surprised. We will never know.
Let's be clear.
But I wouldn't be surprised because she just gives me that. Part of being a Karen is that aspect of life.
But I thought it was fascinating that she said everybody wanted. I mean, granted. I'm taking whatever Lindsay say with a half a grain of salt. Okay. But I thought it was really fascinating that she said that. And I think that honestly, if we keeping it 100, the constant conversation with Olajuwon is sexual tension.
What you mean?
I think she's attracted to Olajuwon and she keeps saying things to him because he said on the after party, the conversation started. She had said something to him prior to that made him like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, he did allude to that.
And y'all know how it is when you around people and they want your attention and they constantly.
I think she's a quintessential Karen, and I think quintessential Karens think that they can say anything to anybody and there is no consequences also or no retaliation. And I think that's why she ended up in the predicament that she's in, because she's been doing that her entire life, and then she did it with a diverse cast of people who actually have their head on straight. Because you can tell the cast doesn't like Lindsay. The cast is like a cast, literally. So I think that the cast is like, I really can't get down with her. And so I think that it was just very telling when we hear from the rest of the cast too. Even her husband said, I thought it was whack that she did, and I don't even want to be with somebody who does what she does.
Exactly. And you said something. The cast doesn't like her, but I want to point out, because Olajuwon said this too, and I don't know why I'm taking Olajuwon's word for it so hard, but he just seems like he got it going on. Because you could tell that
he's just going to tell, he's just going
to say what it is.
He's just going to say what it is. Yeah.
He said he felt like she was putting on for the cameras.
Which she
been doing. And that bothers me too, because when y'all signed this bitch up, y'all specifically signed her up because y'all knew she was gonna put on for the cameras, and you're not gonna believe.
You could tell in certain parts.
Believe she made it past this many human beings.
Yeah,
because she's such an upstanding individual, and we need to pair her with somebody because she would be
she's ratings, and you can tell because we were watching certain parts, and you could see her producing.
Actually,
there's pedals on the sheet. Let's throw it up in the air. And we called the edit out when it happened. They're gonna throw the pedals and then it's gonna hit slow motion until the pedals. You know, like, so she knows that she's producing.
I was drinking, and I was living life off my favorite cocktail.
And she did it again when they were kissing. I mean, she's actively producing while they're filming. And so you could also see that when Olajuwon say he hit it spot on when he said, The same thing that when he was talking about with Chris and Alyssa, and he also hit it spot on when he said she puts on for the cameras. You can tell.
You can absolutely tell, and that's my issue with her. I think that but when first of all, Mark goes down and has a drink with everybody. Everybody loves Mark.
You could tell,
but you can also tell Mark is a good guy.
Yep.
Why y'all like? Even how he handled it, like, listen, I don't want it to be anything. I want us to start brand new. And Katina was absolutely right to feel the way she felt. Because what you want to fight, bitch?
But Katina, I think Katina also
didn't like her.
Not only that, but I think Katina also understood the racial connotations that the seeds that she was trying to plant. Oh, what you want to? That's why I think that's why Katina turned up, and that's why he appreciated her turning up, because he knew I can't, as a black man on the set, I can't turn up because then I am Godzilla.
Let me tell
then
you
I
how
am
weird
the villain. You know what I mean? And
that's
so
why
I think
Joe like me.
It's definitely there's many reasons why.
I know, not the only one, baby.
But absolutely.
Because I'll ride for him, like.
Yeah, because there's certain spaces where you can't, especially as a black man. I haven't been in many spaces with a Karen, right? I haven't had a type of Karen experience that Olajuwon has had.
But that's because you're darker than Olajuwon.
I haven't had that, right? But
everybody loves dark skinned men.
I haven't had that, but I know that you have to be thinking in that moment, I have to watch my hands because she gonna roll on the floor and stomp her feet. And luckily there's cameras and people around for them, right? But and there really wasn't in that moment, right? Because they didn't film it, right? They didn't catch that moment. So you have to be thinking now, like, I'm vulnerable because it's me versus this. We in America, we just gonna get real. Like, it's me versus this white woman's word. And still in 2022, I'm going down, right? If I'm by myself. So to have somebody, at least another woman there, like Katina, to say this is some bullshit, it makes you feel a little bit safer. It makes you feel safer. So I knew that he appreciated her.
With her.
Right, and safer with her. But it makes you feel safer because you like, at least I know she got my back, and she can call out the bullshit that this Karen is trying to pull off. Because had Katina not been there to give us the real and to kind of press her on it, she would have sat there in front of the cameras. Imagine if we didn't have nobody else's account. Karen would have sat there, Karen being Lindsay, would have sat there and did the whole Broadway sob story of, I just am so nervous. I feel so uncomfortable around him. This big black, she wanted to say this big black with the ER. She wanted to say that because she was doing the Karen sob story of, he just made me so scared. And when I was in that space, it was a trigger and and then finally we got the cast and we got Katina to say, no, she was on some bullshit. And that's really what it was.
And even Alyssa with her horrible self.
Even Alyssa said it was.
I really want to call her she who should not be named.
Just call her.
I don't even want to say that bitch name.
I'm just going to call her Karen number 2.
Because I can't stand that bitch. I don't even want to say her name. I don't want to give her no clout. I ain't never disliked the motherfucker like I dislike this bitch right now. Like, on God. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's something wrong with her. And I don't see that she has any redeeming qualities. And we ain't talking about her, but I'm going to say this. Fuck that bitch. But go ahead. Period.
But I just think that it was very telling when we got an account from the rest of the cast and we got an account from her own husband. You know what I'm saying? We needed that, because imagine what would have happened if it was just her and Olajuwon.
And I feel for Mark so deeply because you can tell he just need a hug. That baby just need a good hug. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
And it's like, really, he got fixed.
He got fixed
because
so severely.
He got fixed.
And it's not fair.
He got fixed worse than the other bull.
Who?
Worse than Chris. These white bulls, they bad 2 for 0 on the
I
show.
don't know, Chris. I don't know, man. That Chris and Alyssa situation is really bad. I don't remember anybody who I think got fixed worse than Chris. I think that's really bad.
I agree.
You know, Lindsay has redeeming qualities at times.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Because Lindsay, Lindsay, at least, as dislikable as she is at least is giving some good energy to her husband,
Mark.
To Mark, right?
I agree.
And Mark is a good guy, and Lindsay at least acknowledges that Mark is a good guy.
But she a weirdo, and she say things for the camera, and I don't like.
1,000% she does. 1,000% she does, and I think that we gotta. I think that it's important to call these things out when we see them, because it's time out for the Karens, and it's time to speak power to people that are vulnerable, people of color, especially men and women who are in these spots, who are vulnerable, who, if there isn't another account, it's us, right? Like I had in a situation on the boat where it was like people will.
I almost don't even want you to tell the story.
I'm gonna tell the story.
Go ahead, tell the story. I was gonna say I don't want you to tell it because I want you to tell it on the other one, but go. Yes, tell the story.
I'm gonna tell it again too.
Yeah, I agree. Tell the story.
But people will.
I agree.
Cape for these other people who will do things to you that they would never do to somebody else with a different pigmentation, right? Because people. Just a brief story. When we were away and we were on the boat, they lost some of my equipment on the boat.
His drums.
Yes, they lost some of my equipment on the boat, and the gentleman at the front desk of the boat. The first time I went down to talk to him, he was fine. He was calm. He was being cooperative. He really didn't. He seemed like he was being helpful. The second time I went down to speak to them, because when people, especially these big companies, when they are at fault, they like to pass the buck a lot. Oh, you got to call this office because I don't know why that office told you to call this office because you're supposed to call that office. They were doing that, right? So they sent me back downstairs. The second time they sent me back downstairs, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden he started talking crazy to me, telling me, well, he told me you should have just brought the stuff up with you.
A little background. This particular cruise was geared towards having artists.
It was literally a festival on a boat. So if you've gone to Louder Than Life, or you've gone to like imagine Coachella or something like that, like not as big,
or
but
a Tom Joyner cruise. Tom Joyner
something like that. Yeah. So imagine going to whatever your favorite festival is just on a boat, right?
Yes.
It was that, right? So when the artists,
Joe's band, they at the port put all of our things.
It was a requirement. Like the bands go, they come and they gather the band stuff, take it the gear, the instrumental stuff.
We go through a different lane.
The whole thing is separate. So imagine him saying to me after they lost my stuff, you should have just kept it with you. Then he says, whose fault is it? Right? Amongst other things that he said. And of course I snapped, as I should have. And But I got word that somebody who was of a different pigmentation told my band, "Oh, y'all got to be on a better behavior," and right? Especially imagine that feeling.
Imagine they lose a Kemper,
right?
Imagine they lose a bass,
right?
Imagine they lose a guitar.
But also these are instances and these are situations where people will say stuff to me that they would never say to a bandmate of a lighter pigmentation of mine.
And it is not up for debate.
People have said stuff to me. I'm sure that...
And Joe is not in a genre that is predominantly
black. No.
And if we're being honest, and I hate to make it a race thing, but I do think
this happens a lot where people will say something to you, especially as a token black person in a situation, that they would never say to somebody else of a different pigmentation. And then imagine that person coming to you and telling you that you need to react different. You know what I'm saying? Something that they will never have experienced as a black person, as a person of color in America, or in certain situations, something that they will never have to experience or never have experienced in the past. I mean, I've been in spaces in the past where I've been like, they would have never said that to somebody, a manager of ours or somebody else. They would have never spoken to them the way that he spoke to me. I'm the customer. He lost my shit. The way that he spoke to me.
I'm the artist. Fuck the customer.
Right. Fuck the artist. I'm right.
I'm the artist. I'm talent. And I think that's the thing, right? And I know that but
people will demonize you and have never experienced being in that space and will never experience somebody speaking to you. The people will say things to people of color that they would never say to a Caucasian person.
They wouldn't have never thought.
If I was a white woman, he would have spoke to me the way he spoke to me.
And it's not up for debate. And that was the bigger issue for me. And you said something where you said people of color. I think it's less people of color.
It's less. And let's be honest.
It's more black people.
Let's be honest.
And I think that, because everybody else has the ability to assimilate.
That's true.
Okay, has the ability to show up, as Bob or whomever, right? Whereas my husband is black all day,
every day.
Okay, and I think that, and even, but the assumption, because I even had to say, my husband has done much bigger gigs than this, okay? And what y'all, and I mean that with all due respect, but the reality is that as an artist, the expectation of how he should be treated and how his gear should be treated, you know what I mean? This was unacceptable. Yeah. And how are we not going to say anything about it? And I think that it was talking about moments you have where you're like,
but the funny part about it is bringing it full circle.
Yeah, go ahead, baby.
Right? Is that in all the conversation afterwards of, so it was the same thing. There was a narrative of it was the big black man and he snapped.
And I hated it. Oh my God.
Because this is what they do, right? Especially when, again, like I said,
it was a narrative.
Especially when, again, this is something, it's easy to come from somebody who of a different pigmentation who they would have never spoken to like they spoke to me, right? And the key, the thing that kind of bridges these two incidences is that our manager at the time who was there, who is he's not black, but he's of a different ethnicity.
He can assimilate.
He
has the ability to assimilate. He is a different ethnicity.
But he also is the other account who came to me and said, yeah, that was some bullshit. Right. He also was able to say, like, yeah, that was some bullshit, and it was funny how they was talking to you.
It didn't start there. We off topic. It started when everybody had the same test, and we got stopped.
Yeah.
We all had the same
COVID test. It was the same COVID test. Everybody had the same COVID test, and they didn't accept our COVID test for some reason or whatever. So this is just to say,
it was fascinating.
This is just to say that these things happen, these things are real, and it's important to call them out because people will demonize, especially black men and women. They will demonize you and how you respond to things, to incidences and things that are anomalies to them.
Yes.
Things that happen to us all the time. Things that where people will say we are singled out. We are treated differently. We're spoken to differently, but they will demonize you for how you react to it or how you handle it, right? And so it is always key to have support and to have people around to give another account to say that's not what happened.
Literally.
That's, or to validate, yeah, he was talking crazy to him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because if you,
I'm glad that, and it's just
because the narrative was
it was me.
But let's be clear. I want to be clear. Joe is a diva. Okay. But Joe is a professional. And I'm a diva as well. Joe knows if I'm at work and certain things is not flying for me, I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. Right. Because you get to a certain space in your professional life.
Yeah. Where you show up where you want. Yeah. Yeah. and the thing about, even that is, I show up in a certain space with a certain level of professionalism, and I expect that to be returned.
And I mean, so if rush me out the house to get somewhere on time. And
you understand what I'm saying? So I expect the same professionalism that I give when I show up, right? And so we joke about Joe being a diva in a professional space, but that's really what it is, right? And that's really what it is. I treat every situation straight up, and because I treat every situation with a certain level of professionalism, and when it's not returned to me, I don't fucking like it. You know what I mean? And period. And so in that situation, I was speaking to him in a professional manner, in a palatable manner, and he was not doing that for me. You know what I'm saying? And I also, again, it's like when Don't ask me to be on time for something, but you late with my check. I would you mandate that I be on time, and if I'm not on time, there would be some type of stigma.
Let me tell you something. Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Period. And it would be, but it would be some type of stigma of this guy is late. This guy doesn't do this, right? So if I show up on time, my pay should be on time, right? If I show up with professionalism and decency, I should be treated with that by the staff of the venue, by whoever else that I'm dealing with. You know what I'm saying? And I think we get around people who accept peanuts for whatever it is that they bring, and they think because they accept peanuts, you should accept peanuts too. And I don't subscribe to that. So you call me whatever you want to call me, but that's where I'm at with it. But we can move on because we can go off on a tangent with this for a long time.
Let me tell y'all something. He said what he said, ho. Okay. Basically, the last thing that we want to talk about is Alyssa and Chris again. Chris. His name is Chris, right?
Chris.
I've said this 50 times today. Let me tell you something. I wrote my notes while I was crossfaded. Okay.
But they still
and I told myself, I'm not even going to edit them. I'm just going to read them back tomorrow to see what kind of night I had. An amazing night, by the way. But what I'm getting at is that Chris let Alyssa know you were under the impression, let's round it on back. You were under the impression that you were going to get somebody perfect, and you didn't. And now you're annoyed. And just say that.
Yeah, just say that.
And she was like, well, no, I didn't sign up for that. Are you calling me a liar? And he was like,
yes. And everybody is calling her on her bullshit. And I appreciate that about this season. Everybody in the cast is calling her. I appreciate Keisha in Afterlife, in the after party. It's calling her on her bullshit. I appreciate that because we've seen seasons in the past where people have not been called on their bullshit.
She walked by him in the airport.
Like for what?
You are such a bad person. Imagine looks being that important to you that you can't even engage a motherfucker.
Yeah, but not only that. Imagine treating him like he offended you,
and then try to convince us
that it was him.
Y'all don't think that's scary?
She is a psychopath, yo. Like, this is not okay.
Honestly, I wish nothing but bad relationships on a bitch like that.
Well, guess what?
And you know what they say?
You get what you get about.
I was watching something, and y'all tell me how y'all feel about this. The young lady said, when we say your picker is off to women, we are. What did I told you this last night? When we say your picker is off to women, then we are absolving the man of his piss poor behavior. And I would argue that is bullshit.
Yeah, sure.
There is a group of women out here
men
who want futures, who get futures and then get mad they got one.
Yeah.
Your fucking picker is
off. Period.
Like, you know what I mean? Because that now absolves you, the motherfucking adult, of your choices. And the reality is that's some bullshit. She is a bad person. I really, really implore you all. I don't give a fuck how many dogs she saved. She would have to save every dog on this planet for me to be, on the planet, okay? For me to be like, oh, you know what? We're going to be okay. That man ain't do nothing to her. And for her to turn around, it triggered me, guys. It triggered me from being a black woman with a black husband. It triggered me because it made me feel like the moment on the boat. Yeah. It made me feel like, is she trying to demonize? Like, are we doing this?
Yeah.
And are y'all allowing this?
Yeah.
And my thing is, I've been having a hard time watching production living with themselves, putting human beings in situations like this. This is going to traumatize this man from that. You
don't know how this can scar him, and you don't know how he's going to handle it moving forward. Right?
If he don't become a serial murderer and start killing bitches with black hair, I wouldn't be surprised.
But there's an underlying thing here of like, we understand that you're producing a show and we can respect that.
Yeah.
But you also are dealing with real human beings with real lives, with real emotions and real feelings, and they have to move on from this. You know, whether they move on married or whether they move on divorced, this show is going to end in a certain amount of weeks. And y'all have to take that into account when you're pairing people, because you can get good ratings without screwing people's lives up. And I think that this Alyssa Chris thing It's not even cute. Like
it's not even cute.
It's not even fun to watch.
Ain't no way.
It's not even fun to watch. It's not even good to watch.
I want to fast forward.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to see a man put himself through that.
Yeah. Especially because you could tell that because of his own, like we all have our own flaws, and because it's in particular, like really, his flaws are really vulnerable to what her flaws are, right? So because she is domineering and manipulative,
those things,
he's giving into that. That's one of his flaws. Is he's just he's laying down. Vain. He's giving into that, and so you can see it being the perfect mix for a disaster. And I feel for how he moves on from this. This in the same way of thinking about Gil and Mirla from last season.
But I told you I didn't like Mirla in the beginning, and Joe was like, "What you mean? You are Mirla?" No, the fuck I'm not, because I'm right.
No. I'm saying that I fear for the same way that I fear for how Gil will move on from this situation. It's the same way that I fear for Chris, because this is really dark, you know, and
it's not even fun, even for lifetimes. Even for life,
because y'all had an insight on this, because the Mirla,
we didn't know.
Yeah, Mirla got us all. Mirla got us all, right? But y'all even had more of an insight on, and I guess Mirla could even have gotten the casting. But I think for this situation, it's a little different because we see what she's doing right now, and I'm sure that she went to casting at some point and said, or production at some point and said, I want out. And they said, no, you're contractually obligated to be here in the film for the rest of these whatever weeks. And I would argue that is toxic. And let her go, because you let her. And even we need to set a precedence of, there was 1,000 applicants or whatever. Cherry, get a backup, get an understudy, and have somebody else come in and pair Chris with somebody else and let them finish the show. You know what I'm saying?
Let me say this.
Like, let Chris finish the show with somebody else.
I agree, and that's what we need to start doing. Period.
Especially this early. This was episode 1. Like pretty much. Like, you know what I mean? This is you know what I mean? Like, this is pretty much episode 1 when she's doing this. Let her go. Let her go, because it's clear that she's not here for the right reasons.
Do not film that bitch no more.
Yeah.
Like, don't film her no more. And when I say that from a space of, who gonna check me, Bill? You know what I mean? Like, I really feel deeply in my heart, and he said he a masshole, which makes me think that he's a Republican. But on the other end,
he's just from Boston.
I was just about to say that.
To me, I
on the other end,
going to school in Boston, I met a lot of massholes, and many of them were not Republican. They just was massholes. Yes, you know what I mean?
Yes, and I think he's that. And I do think that it's just really very hard to watch. And I'm going to make a prediction. And I said this to Joe earlier. First of all, I want to be clear. I love Jasmina. Something about her I just really like. And I like how she's been showing up with Michael's family and everything. But the way that she's starting fights with Michael.
Oh my God, that was weird.
It was very Alyssa.
It was very weird.
Deep-rooted Alyssa. And it was smarter Alyssa. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm going to say. All I'm going to say is, because I want to see it play out, because he seemed really reserved about it. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, because I think more so than
I'm a assertive.
I think more so than reserved, he was blindsided. He's like, what is happening right now? And I could kind of see that on his face.
Yeah.
And we too were blindsided, because I was just like, what's happening right? Like, you're literally creating conflict. They were talking about there being conflict.
Because his family has said that and we're going to wrap this up, but his family has said that he can sometimes think what do I say? I do this. He manages his expectations. And by doing that, what he does is he thinks the worst, which is not a great thing. Let's be clear. But he does that because he's probably have gone through so much that thinking the best and maybe receiving a good outcome, it might not be.
But in this moment, all he was saying was, in this very moment,
let's be clear.
All he was saying was, because we are new, there is going to be some bumps in the road in any relationship,
and that's why y'all be single,
because you are learning each other. And so I'm bound to do something that I didn't know was a no-go for you and you me, and that's just something that you deal with and you move on. He didn't say nothing that wasn't factually almost factually correct. Like, it's not really an opinion. Like, he didn't say every couple is going to start throwing stuff at each other and yelling. He just said, in any new situation, in new relationship, you have a learning curve, which is a fact. It's literally a fact of life. I'm going to do something that might rub you the wrong way just because I simply don't know better yet. But right, that's all he was saying. And she literally leaned in and created a conflict within that conversation. Almost, it was wild to watch. Affirming what he said. She literally affirmed what he said,
which was fascinating because I know he wanted to say, "Told you so." Yeah, but yeah, literally, like, he did. Told you so. But I do think that there is something. I don't have many single girlfriends, if I'm being honest. I don't. But for the ones that I do have, the need to assert yourself is fascinating to me.
Wow, I didn't even think about that in this situation. That is definitely something that was not even that a
one, right? Here? She felt like she had to assert herself.
We're just going to agree to disagree.
And it was like, it wasn't even nothing that was that deep. I use agree to disagree so little because being happy supersedes me wanting to be right. So if I'm in a space where Joe and I are disagreeing, sometimes I feel like we're going to agree to disagree.
Right.
But most times I'm like, okay. Like, you know what I mean? Because, and that's what the dad was saying. It don't require you to give an explanation all the time, right? Because sometimes it don't even mean that much to me. But you're trying to,
you're trying to assert yourself.
You're trying to assert yourself. This is an exercise in dominance.
Yeah.
And the reality is that
but this was also
what I want to say is women need to really exercise being in touch with their divine femininity a lot more, because what you will find is that the strength in the divine, Joe will do anything for me if I'm nice, but the moment I start getting like, no, he feels like he's got to assert, right? So, and a large part of that is that I want a man, right? I want a man, right? So in saying that, I want him to show up in his most masculine energy. So if I want that, what do I have to do?
And I think we talked about it earlier, just the theme of like, just getting more bees with honey. You know what I mean? That's what we're talking about right now.
Also that.
We just talking about get more bees with honey.
I can get him to do anything if I'm
with nice. Honey, period, right? You know what I'm saying? Because, and I think that's something that maybe talking about like we did last season, where we need to see more experts and we need to see them spread out periodically throughout the episodes and throughout these different iterations of the couple's relationships and different things that they go through. That's something that she maybe needs to work on and maybe needs to be talked to, maybe needs to talk to somebody about, like somebody. That's a perfect teaching moment to be like, listen, sis, what you doing right here, that's not even called for. You didn't even need to do that. Like, let's stop the tape. Like
other married
you know
people,
what I mean?
Like, you don't even
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Like and as a married woman, and as a woman that has always been, I've been in committed relationships for a long time. So for me, it's more like I've realized as I've gotten older, especially, that my divine femininity has gotten me so much further.
Yeah.
Than me. That is me asserting myself.
1,000%. That's your power. 1,000%. 1,000%.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying acquiesce, because I don't feel like I acquiesce a lot. I really do get what I want most of the time. I think that it comes from a place of one. don't want to say knowing your spouse, knowing men.
But that's just being, that's just having, but and that's what I'm saying. That's just leaning into your power. There is no finesse like a woman's finesse, right?
None.
And a woman's finesse has started wars. You know what I mean? They wasn't started because the couple had a dick slinging contest. You understand what I'm saying? And so if you are Jasmina and you think you're gonna have a dick slinging contest,
but that's
you bound to drizzle. Wow, we almost missed it. But we got it here.
And I have to cook dinner, and I really don't have nothing else to give. So my thing is this: he said what he had to say. God damn it, that's my fault because I was long-winded today, y'all. But we had 2 episodes to get through, and y'all be watching them 3-hour long ass episodes. Y'all gonna watch this, okay? So let me say this: if you have not subscribed to this channel, bitch, you better. Oh, you better, okay? Me and my husband is working hard. That's number 1. Number 2, I gotta cook dinner. What y'all cooking for dinner tonight? I think I'm gonna make some jerk chicken, cilantro lime rice. What else I'm gonna make? Cabbage, because I really am in the mood. And I really want some plantains, so we're gonna do that as well. But I hope you guys are having good dinners. Hope you guys enjoyed this. We are going to edit our cruise.
Yeah, we'll have that out this week.
I got a lot of footage, guys. So you get to see Joe in his natural environment. It's really cool. And I hope you enjoyed this. Please comment and let us know how y'all feeling. We done talked about these motherfuckers so hard. And do not, I don't give a damn what you do. Don't put that bitch name in our motherfucking comments because we will not respond back.
Just say Karen 1 or 2.
Call her whatever you want to call her. Call her whatever you want to call her, okay?
We'll know exactly what you're talking about.
Call her Voldemort. All right? Because that's what that hoe is. And we love you guys. And we hope that you enjoyed this as much as we did. And we'll see you later.
Peace.
Bye.